Welcome back to Ruff Talk VR. Dive into your weekly dose of in-depth game reviews, exclusive developer chats, and the freshest scoop on MetaQuest and the VR universe. Today, we're in good hands with the dynamic father-son duo D-Scruffles and Stratus, ready to decode and discuss all things virtual reality.
Hey, welcome to this episode of Ruff Talk VR. Today we have one that I'm super excited for, not only because it's a great game, but also we have 3 members of the team. This is going to be huge. We're going to get great
full
insight.
House.
Yeah, but this is how I like it. You know, we can get all the insight and we can just get to know more of the team. So today we're talking about Genotype, a great new VR, I would say is like a narrative story-based game available on the MetaQuest. It just launched. I know you guys will probably be able to say the launch date better than me, but I feel like just about the same time as the Quest 3. But of course was designed for the Quest 2 and everything. But we'll get into the nitty gritty like that. But
holding strong with a 4.7 too.
That's impressive.
Yep.
And you know, the studio behind them is Bolverk Games. And today we have Lasse, the CEO, Jaime, the project manager and game designer, and Mark, another game designer.
We are butchering names here, by the way.
Yeah, there's always a chance I butcher names, game title, studio name, but we do our best here at Ruff Talk. So do you 3 mind to introduce yourselves a little bit better than I did, you know, to our listeners? And in case they're unfamiliar with Genotype, kind of give a brief description of what exactly Genotype is.
Yeah, I can start. I'm Lasse, and I'm CTO and not the CEO, but yeah, but primarily programming the game.
Yep. My name is Jaime. I am the project manager. I have done some game design for the game. I am not the lead designer though. And also just general many hat wearer. Among other things, I also voice directed the vocal performances for the game.
And my name is Mark. I am the other programmer with many hats too, mostly programming.
Yeah, we talked about this a little off air, but it's very common in VR studios. You know, people are wearing many hats.
No, you get a wardrobe of hats.
You know, we always ask people, what's your official role with the studio? And it's always technically this, but also I do a lot of this.
Well, we talked to someone who was an engineer. They were titled an engineer, but they did no.
Correct.
They do zero programming.
Correct. Yeah. It's very, very common. But you know, how big is the whole team that worked on this game?
So our core team is about 8 people. That's been plus or minus a few interns that came in, stayed with us a few months at a time, then they were replaced by other people. But yeah, the core team that's been here through the whole development is 8 people.
That's very impressive because my first impression when going in Genotype, I was not prepared for how polished of a game experience it was going to be.
Oh, the environment's insane.
The environment's insane.
Great.
Very innovative gameplay with the combat where you have, you know, for anybody that's never played, you have...
Yeah, hold on. I think we're all getting carried away because we need to say what this game even is. I already know where you're going. You're going into mechanics.
Yeah, right away, the game's innovative. But yeah, do you want to tell a little bit, good call, you know, of what exactly Genotype is?
Yeah, sure. So Genotype is what I've been calling a combat exploration game, where you play as a scientist who finds themselves in an abandoned Antarctic research base that has been overrun by this alien ecosystem, effectively. And you use this organic 3D printer, kind of in air quotes, to print live creatures that act as your tools and your weapons. So yeah, that's the basic premise of the game.
Well,
now that we got that out of the way.
Yeah, I think it's also important to say, you know, the gameplay is very fun. The visuals are polished, but it's a great story. I remember probably like 5 minutes into playing it, I went, oh no, this is going to be like a Red Matter or a Hubris type thing where it doesn't matter really what's going on in the game. Now I need to finish the freaking game. So, you know, the game's very, very well polished. So to hear that there's only 8 people with that type of graphics, that type of gameplay, really good gameplay design. You know, they give you an onboarding of the tutorial, you know, where they teach you, you know, how to use the organic weapon and stuff, but it's never just really a screen that pops up and tells you how to play. It's the I don't want to give spoilers, but you know, the narrator in your ear. Yeah, he's going to tell you how to play, but in a way that doesn't break immersion. It's just a very well polished game. So for 8 people working on this, how long did this game take to develop?
Yeah, around 2 years actually. We've been in full production for a year and a half, but
I
we
would say
did a lot of pre-production as well. So
yeah, I would say probably 20 months is the closest thing. We started about February 2022.
That's extremely aggressive.
Yeah, that's impressive.
For this kind of finished product, it's like overly impressive.
100%.
Usually 2 years, you're not getting, I'd say, the full scope of what was in front of me when I played it.
Well, again,
it's been a lot of hard work. I can tell you that much. It's not always fun to be a small team, but on the other hand, we have a lot of agility, and being a small team, we can quickly shift to what's becoming a great game and what's fun, what's not. So that's the upside of being a small core team.
Yeah, and those 2 years also include like the several pivots that we went through. Because the game started off as an immersive sim. Then we tried making it into a roguelike. And then eventually we settled into the kind of more open world / somewhat more linear experience that it currently is.
What did the game look like in those simulation and roguelike states?
Well, I mean, I would say the roguelite state was more consideration for the team size. How could we go about making the game in a reasonable time frame with the team? So the roguelike idea could be compartmentalizing the game into smaller pieces that could be put together randomly, but with story bits here and there. So you're still playing through a story. We know when it's going to happen, but going through the story could be different because the theming would be the alien creature thing is messing with your mind. That's one direction we're going. But we ended up choosing not to go down that route. But that was one of the original ideas on how to make the production a little easier on us, because we could reuse some of the settings as it would be roguelite.
So did you have the full story planned before you started the game, or was it something that you kind of developed as you developed the game?
We actually worked with the story writer, and he can tell you no. He rewrote a lot of things during the production. It's like, oh, you changed this now. Yeah, let me go back and rewrite some of these sections. So no. But he did a great job. He's a very talented writer, and he's been writing on a lot of other projects. So we're really happy to work together with him.
Yeah, the writer that we worked with is called Morten Bromberg, and he has worked with us before. In fact, the previous game released, Voice Attorney, that we also worked with him to develop the story for it. And well, since it's a story-driven game, like that was a key contribution right there.
And we worked with him before, and this time we wanted to include him from the very beginning. So we more or less had the story writers with from the very start of the project to make sure that we were working in tandem with the game display design and the story.
So I'm guessing then there was obvious multiple rewrites. So I can see where those rewrites would come in if you're going down one path, and then you're like, well, we're just going to go this direction. And it's like, well, the story's kind of written for that first
to be a simulation. Now it's a roguelite, and now it's a story-based.
The voice acting is really good.
Well, that's something that we didn't touch on yet. It's fully voice acted. So what was that experience like, making a game that, I mean, it's all high quality voice production. It doesn't sound like you were just recording in your room or anything like that.
It's balanced really well.
No. So there are several parts to that. The first one was the fact that we were using voice actors that we had already worked with before. As I mentioned, the writer and Mark and I collaborated in the previous project, Voice Attorney, which is a fully voice acted as well visual novel. So we had some experience in terms of recording voices, working with voice actors, etc. And it was Morten, like the same writer as last time. Another side of it was the fact that we built our own sound booth in the office with our hands, and it was finished the Friday before the Monday in which the first voice actor was going to come in.
That shows that level of commitment. I mean, again, the game
hold on. Was all the voice acting done internally, like in the studio?
Yes. We called in a couple of the voice actors that worked on Voice Attorney because we figured that they had enough range to provide different variations of their own voice, etc. And it just worked really well. We knocked out the voice acting much quicker than we even were expecting to do it.
Well, yeah, because you're not having to have someone go to a studio where they live or whatever the case. So that's pretty. So you currently still obviously have a sound studio then.
And I mean, when we say studio,
it's a standing room inside the room, and it weighs like 1.5 ton. I don't know what that's in imperial units, but that's a lot. It's heavy. But it's built out of wood and gypsum and it's not going anywhere.
Rock wool, plaster boards, double layer, plaster in and out. And we haven't mentioned, we have our beautiful sound engineer, Kredrik, who is also part of the core 8-man team, who has had a wonderful joy building the sound booth and setting up everything how he wants it. With all the wiring going in and out from his workstation to the sound booth and whatnot.
Yeah, he actually soldered the wires going in and out of the sound booth himself. So it's it's a typical small team thing where everybody chips in with everything. Oh, so I'm not going to paint today. I'm going to be a carpenter today. Yes, you are.
There are some funny pictures of me in the 40 centimeter gap. Which is about like 16, 18 inches between the ceiling of the sound booth and the ceiling of the room, just with a drill, drilling in plasterboard, basically.
Yeah.
Well, that was a good trick to give it a very polished and professional feel.
I'd really like to see the equipment, to be honest with you.
Yeah, well, and think of those. Now they have this for all future games that they make too.
You could also farm it out if you wanted, because I'm not sure everybody in town has a freaking sound booth you can go to.
Yeah. No,
so, I mean, there's other aspects to owning one that you could easily.
And it's
we actually talked about that.
And you guys come from some music background, so did that background kind of help you in designing the booth and balancing everything, or was that all on the audio engineer?
Well, the audio engineer also made all the music, and he's also a musician himself. And like I play in a rock band, so I also have extensive, experience with making music, but also recording music. So I already set up a studio for the band, and so I had some previous experience on how to do this. And yeah, basically we have a lot of guys being very interested in sound, so we could do the design of the sound booth in-house. So, and it turned out great. It's really, really, like you said, the audio from it sounds very, very good. So, yeah.
I mean, a detail it's missing, though, isn't it? It's not a square sound booth room with like a glass window or anything. It is like a coffin, and there's a webcam inside to communicate with people in the booth. But it's not square. It has, I don't know why, but I know why, but it has these particular angles in the corners so that the sound doesn't ricochet. So it's like a triangle type of thing, diamond shape.
Yeah.
That's so freaking cool.
And being musicians, it's not like you're not going to go in there and, I'm assuming, sing or can you support playing a guitar in there at least?
Yeah. That's room enough for a guitar.
Okay.
A band would be stretching it, but a guitarist we could have in there.
So one at a time, and then each person could lay down their track. Okay.
Yeah. Layered music. Yeah, for sure.
And not to take away from your game, since you brought up music, it wasn't my fault. What kind of music do you play?
Well, like I said, I play in a local rock band. Not anything famous. It's just a spare time thing. And I believe our sound guy is mostly into metal. I can't remember exactly what branch of metal, but he likes the hard rock. Let's just put it like that.
And electronic music. He's a massive Aphex Twin fan.
Yeah.
That's huge. Again, the game, all the tips and tricks to pull out the most professional and well polished game possible. Again, you're going to go into it, and by the end of that first level, you're going to want to keep playing, if not for the gameplay, the story. We mentioned quick that there's like a shooter on your wrist.
Yeah, with a very unique, which kind of like I had told you before. I'm like, the first time I stumbled on it, I was like, oh man, this is a new mechanic. I don't know if I like this, but then I appreciated it more and more for bringing something new that wasn't. I just become comfortable with typical shooting mechanics as far as like how to change something, or so I wasn't expecting something totally different,
like organic creation on your wrist that you can select, which one you want to use as a weapon, and you'll unlock different weapons or organic material, biological things throughout the game, and you use kind of like a pull cord to select which one you want, and then obviously different ones do different abilities. So whose idea was this? Like, how did this come to be? That was one of the most innovative things I think I've seen.
That came about through many iterations. But one of the design goals was actually for you as a player to have your hands free. So you could grab on things even though you have had a weapon. And I think we succeeded with that. And also, Jaime, you had something?
Yeah, it was basically the same. The idea of kind of 3D printing organic creatures came out of the idea of 3D printing something else in a previous iteration, and that just kind of kept evolving. As you mentioned, as you find new things, new genetic material in the game, you get to upgrade them, you get to find new ones, and a lot of that has been driven by just playtesting and figuring out what felt good, what weapons and tools were the most interesting to have, how to differentiate them in interesting ways. And then as well, when we had our open beta test, all of the feedback that was coming in from external testers that were telling us, oh, this doesn't feel right. This, I feel like I'm running out of ammo really quickly, or this doesn't feel as strong as it should, that kind of thing.
Well, I appreciate bringing it to the table like that.
Yeah, no, again,
I expected predictability, and I was thrown a curveball.
Right off the top, they introduced it to you, and you're just like, whoa, this is interesting. And, obviously, like all games, you start with one, and like I said, that you're going to unlock more as you play. But I agree, I was a little caught off guard, but then I was sold on it very quick. And, it's all done through very nice interactions. Like you find more ammo, you put it on your left hand, and you drain it in, and then boom, you got more ammo. Same with healing. You have your inventory. So the game feels like, even though maybe it's not the biggest team, it's coming from people with a lot of experience who understand just good gameplay, game mechanics. So do you want to talk a little bit real quick about what your previous titles were? You mentioned like Voice Attorney, and I'm sure you have others as well.
Lasse, you want to talk about your oldest product?
Sure. We it's not our first VR game for sure. We've made two shooter games called Dig Wild 1 and 2, and so that's where we honed in the whole shooting mechanics in VR, and that was during the first VR games was really, oh, okay, you're not going to move, you're just going to stand still and then shoot at everything. So wave-based shooters, basically, right? Because that was very that was great for comfort in VR, that you didn't get to be moved around too much, and so that's why we made those types of games. And so coming from that, we learned a lot about which weapon types work really well in VR and which don't, and so it was drawing from that experience that we went into this game design, but also. At the beginning of this game, we tried the whole, what if you didn't have weapons at all? How could we then do it if only tools and puzzles? But that quickly became very boring, and it was hard to find into find a red thread, if you like, find a good gameplay in that. And so we fell back on the whole. Let's design funky, weird guns. That's also what we did in Dig Wild 1 and 2. In Dig Wild 1 and 2, you play as this guy that's out in the swamp, and he's basically just throwing weapons together from scrap. So it's all kind of weird weapons. They are rooted in real weapons, but it's basically metal scrap weapons. So
to give a quick idea of what the concept of Dick Wild is, I like to explain it as redneck exterminator via shotgun.
Yeah. Very accurate.
Yeah.
And electrified chain lightning bows as well.
Yeah.
Actually sounds really fun.
I'm going sign me up today, you know. It sounds like you've never liked to do the typical just pick up a pistol or pick up a club and start bashing people. It sounds like you've always leaned a little bit more of like the more innovative gameplay mechanics.
Well, you got to stand out from the crowd, right? I mean, even in a VR market, but in VR, it's kind of hard because you don't want to. VR is a niche in games, right? And then you can't really go into a niche of a niche. So your game can't be too strange. But and on the other hand, you want to have really interesting experiences, right? And so one of the things we go back to is, what do you want to experience in VR? What do you want to be like? What do you want to try in VR? Because it's a different experience, compared to just playing a normal PC game, right?
I mean, and even then, it's been like Bolverk in general. It's not. We don't consider ourselves necessarily a VR company, but very much an emerging technologies company. So, one of the first games is called Kittypocalypse. It's a tower defense in VR, which is already a strange mashup. Then there was Dick Wild. Then there is Glyph, a 3D platformer in VR, also not the kind of thing that you would expect with the problems that VR has with locomotion. And then, well, the previous game that we made, Voice Attorney, which was a voice-controlled visual novel for effectively Alexa, but for Google and with a screen, the Google Nest Hub, it's called.
Oh, honestly, I love tower defense games in VR. I love strategy games in VR. I actually don't think that there's enough of them. I think that they work great. So I'm guessing these are all PC VR only titles, right? Just because the market at the time they came out, or are these available on like SideQuest or App Lab or anything like that?
No, not yet.
Well,
at least.
How many years ago is it since we made the Kittypocalypse? Just to put a time frame on this.
Yeah, I think it's 7 years. Would that be correct? 6 or 7 years?
7 years ago, we made Kittypocalypse. So in our time span, the quest is kind of new.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I was figuring. It sounded like that these weren't.
I love the title, Kittypocalypse.
All of these games sound great. I mean, to kind of follow up on that, has there ever been thought to, just for ha-has, port them over to the Quest and put them on App Lab or something like that? Or is it just not enough time in the day?
We have had some talks about. Sorry, Jaime. We had some talks about maybe porting one of the Dick Wild games, just because they're really fun and they would work well, and it would be not easy but doable to port to a mobile platform. Kittypocalypse would be very hard because there's a lot of enemies in Kittypocalypse, so it's kind of hard to simulate that many. It's kind of a forerunner for their billions just in VR. There's not billions, but there's a lot of actors there, so it would be kind of hard to run on a 5-watt processor.
Understood. I asked that selfishly. We're standalone.
Although
Quest
I'll
users.
throw the caveat that the bar at which I have you all as a team because of Genotype is pretty freaking high.
Mm-hmm.
So if there was another project coming down the road, I already have an expectation based on like functionality, the visuals, the sound quality. So it's like, I'd love to see these ports over as well, but is it going to be of that same caliber of quality, or will it feel like a possible downgrade in what my first experience with this? So that's always the risk I have with studios when
they're porting over old
pump
content.
out something really freaking good. It's like, all right, well, that's my bar for the studio.
Yeah, and I'm guessing you guys took all the experience that you learned over however many years designing those games and brought those into Genotype. So I get what you're saying. Sometimes you go backwards, and it's harder because you see all the experience. And have all three of you been a part of the team the entire time, or when did Jaime and Mark, when did you guys hop in?
I was hired the last month of development of Kitty Apocalypse, so it's more or less as long as you can go.
Yeah, and I came into Bolverk about 3.5 years ago. So I'm a more recent hire.
And I was one of the founders, so I guess I was pretty much in the beginning.
Yeah, I got that impression right away.
Yeah.
I was like, I have a feeling he's been there since day one.
Yeah.
And
it was kind of my idea to start the company, so yeah.
And, Genotype sounds like a much different style game than the other games. So how did, I guess, Genotype come to be? How did the idea for it start?
I would preface it by saying that Genotype is probably something that a lot of us have wanted to make for a long time. And as Lasse was mentioning before with Dick Wild 1, a big issue for us was the whole locomotion and comfort. We're always locking ourselves into thoughts of how do we make games where you don't have to walk around your flat, or can you play it seated or whatever. But Genotype is the first time where we're like, well, we can make a game where you can walk around an immersive world and enjoy it. And that's something we were fearful of previously that could give locomotion sickness and whatnot.
Yeah, we worked really, really hard on the locomotion for Genotype. Obviously drawing inspiration from like Half-Life Alyx and all the Hallmark VR games, but we spent a lot of time, making it feel comfortable when you accidentally bump into a wall and when you go up and down stairs. And when we saw from the metrics that there was very few, if any, of our beta testers, and we had like more than 300 that used teleport move. They all used what we call smooth movement, so regular movement, and that for us was really a success because we've pushed really, really hard for it to be comfortable enough to play. With smooth movement.
We also have a benefit in disguise, which is that Lasse is particularly sensitive to simulation sickness. So if he doesn't get dizzy, we're good.
Yeah.
It's actually perfect, though.
Yeah. It's like having the pickiest eater be your kitchen taster. It's like if they can eat it, anybody can eat it.
I had no issues at all. I mean, I don't really get issues, but if there was one to be had, I assume I would.
Well, it's always nice when there's the option for locomotion settings as well versus, getting locked into.
I go smooth all the time. Smooth turn if I can, smooth motion if I can.
And I'll give you guys credit too, because the game came out, like I said, optimized for the Quest 2, and very quickly after the launch of the Quest 3, you had an update that kind of upgraded for the Quest 3 as well. That's huge to so fast do it. But what was it like making this game, mainly for the Quest platform?
Should I take that one?
Go on, Les.
Yeah, so we were actually kind of caught a bit off guard with the Quest 3 release because we didn't have a Quest 3 until I think a week after launch. And I think a lot of people had the impression that we were basically a Quest 3 launch title, and that's not true. So our game is very much optimized for Quest 2. It's sitting around 89% usage most of the time in the game. So we're pushing it to the very, very limit. And so what we've been told is that we're a pretty Quest 2 game, and then Quest 3 came out, and they're like, oh, then we need to get an even better Quest 3 version. But we also have plans for porting to the PlayStation VR 2, and obviously it has pretty beefy GPU. So we already had plans for what we wanted to upgrade in terms of the visuals. So that's why we could fairly quickly pivot to making a Quest 3 version from there on.
And this Quest 3 patch has also come with its own slew of other fixes and patches and tweaks and changes based on what the players have been saying. There were some players that wanted difficulty modes. And so with this first patch that has just come out, we now have 4 difficulty settings. There are tweaks everywhere. There's more loot to be found. And we are still working on many more changes and a lot more content among them tweaks in general to how combat works, based on the feedback that we're hearing from reviews and that we see on Reddit, and so we are just trying to actively find things that people are bumping up against in the game and giving them more, basically. And we're pretty happy with how the patch schedule is shaping up at the moment.
So do you want to talk a little bit about what these upcoming combat updates are? Because you have me intrigued right away.
Yep. Would you guys like to take that one?
Well, one thing is looking into some of the AIs or some of the creatures that you're fighting at the moment, how they're behaving, how we could make fighting them more interesting, force you to take other choices, rework probably some of the upgrades for the hand creatures, potentially give them a different visual flair, make them feel even more different to play with. It's all going to be a balancing act for us on how we can keep everything holding up. But working on making the current hand creatures better, maybe also some of the consumable items better, and just
we also want to go into some of the boss battles and make them even more epic. We have some ideas that didn't make it to the final game that we want to do after the facts. To make them even more rememberable. That's basically the primary role of a boss battle is, that's a key moment. I really remember that battle because it did this and that thing, right? So we want to improve on that.
I wanted to mention it before I didn't get the chance, but we have this issue that we have a very, very talented art team, and us on the engineering part, we have to really fight them tooth and nail to keep the frame rate high enough. So that's kind of an issue we've had, and throughout the project, we've had to scope down a lot because we had big dreams, and then we could see, we couldn't feasibly make it. So, but now we're standing here. Well, we wanted to do more, so now we're looking to catch up on some of our ambitions.
And we also have to say that it's not always by scoping down that we manage to get the art to meet the specs. There's also just been so much work on optimization and on tooling in general that has just massively helped getting a game that looks like this, which we are really proud of how good the game looks. And people on the internet saying this amazing looking Quest 2 game, and it's true. And it's come through just a ton of, let's set the system up so that it optimizes like this. Let's combine all of the meshes so there's only one mesh to deal with. Let's rework this. Let's optimize that. It's been just a lot of effort poured into that specifically.
Yeah. Let's write all the graphical shaders by hand and not use a single one that came with the engine. Yeah. And that's not for fun. That's because you got to squeeze every cycle out of Quest 2 to make the game look great. So, yeah.
Yeah, hats off to the art team.
Everybody should feel, that's a good problem to have when your art team is too good.
Well, it's observable right away, right on that first intro going in, the first level, the environmentals, everything, your hands. The game is freaking beautiful. So, hats off to the art team. And
thank you.
I'm sorry for you guys that, they make you work so hard. But for us as the consumers, it's the best thing possible. It's
getting incredible graphics and smooth gameplay on, and even though we're Quest 3 users now, I'll say we tried it on the 2. It runs great. It looks great. It sounds great. Yeah. So you really had figured out how to maximize every little bit of juice the thing's got in front of you. So
again, without,
excited for the PlayStation VR users.
Without overhyping, I had that Red Matter feel when I first went into it, and I had that first level. I was like, man, the story of this seems really good. The graphics of this seem really good. The gameplay is really good. I was like, oh, I'm in for an adventure. And you mentioned PlayStation VR too, as you just mentioned. That's going to look beautiful in there. But, what's the plans for, I guess, other headsets? Is it just going to be Quest and PlayStation or PC VR? What's Pico? What's the plans?
Yeah, so we have plans for porting to Pico. We already have talks with the Pico guys. We have plans to do a PC version, obviously. I don't know if that's obvious, but when we do the PlayStation, it makes sense to also do the PC version, and that will also enable people to play linked mode, and if they want the extreme graphics with every bell and whistle, then we'll have that version too. So yeah, they're definitely working on that.
That's huge. And do you have, obviously it's hard to say for sure, there's always more obstacles that come up in development, but do you have
done?
Yeah, do you have a time frame of when you would like to see it on PC VR and PlayStation VR?
No, because I mean we have a running version on the PlayStation, but it's without all the things that is required by the PlayStation to work properly. It has to support age checking and everything, all the bells and whistles. And so we need to do all that, and then it needs to go into QA, and QA can be a very you never know when you're done QAing on especially on consoles. That goes for all the consoles. I mean, you often hear about a game being delayed. That's usually because it's delayed in some type of QA process. They find some things that needs to be fixed. I think that's great. I mean, it's a good thing that high standards are set. I think that's ultimately what makes the quality on those platforms. Also, I'm grateful for all the QA we done on the game, because I wasn't as nervous as I'm usually are when we release a game, because I felt like it's been tested pretty good now.
So kind of on that, what's the reception been like since release? You mentioned, reading Reddit posts.
4.7.
I mean, that should say enough, but from what you've read, what you've heard, what's the feedback been like?
So far the feedback from the people that have played it has been extremely positive. We have just been blown away by how people have been receiving this. As you mentioned, the 4.7, our contacts at Meta have mentioned in some of our meetings, have mentioned, no, yeah, the reviews are fantastic. Having a 4.7 1 week out after the launch is it's not the usual. However, we also happened to come out right alongside the Quest 3, which did a lot of sucking the air out of the room. And so we have had challenges in that respect.
Is it more just getting the name out because the Quest 3 stole the spotlight, or what's the challenges currently?
I mean, I'd add that we'd had one issue where people looked at it and said, it's so beautiful, it can't be a Quest 2 game. It's got to be Quest 3. That's a issue we had initially.
And then on the other side, we would have Quest 3 people who would go, I'm not going to buy this until it has a Quest 3 update.
Yeah, so we're stuck kind of in the middle of those two worlds. And the funny thing is, we have a philosophy of not wanting to cheat, if you call that, on the marketing. So, the trailer we shot was shot with the Quest 2 graphics, right? And the screenshots were taken from the Quest 2, right? And I guess a lot of people saw that in the store and thought, yeah, it's nice, but it's probably from the Quest 3 version that we hadn't made at that point. So it's been challenging to convey that, also because we're a small team, so we don't have like a huge outlet, or we don't have like a million Twitter followers or X followers, I guess it's called now. So it's been hard to come out with those things, but luckily we have a charming marketing team, so that's a good thing.
No, and I kind of can't disagree, because we had talked off air together that every once in a while there's like a great game that comes out, and either through release of something else or something, who knows, but it almost gets that it's getting hidden. It's not getting the exposure it deserves, or it should get. And I'm kind of putting Genotype, even with the 4.7, I just don't think as many people really know it's
No,
it's there.
It's such a good story-based game.
It's freaking good. So it's like you should be able to see the game, click on it, see the review, and that should be the end of it. But it's unfortunately not that simple. You got to get people to click on that to see the review, to see that it's good. But it's I'm concerned because it's like I want people to play it, but I just don't feel like it's getting that full push into the.
And again, it's up there with the best of the best for these story-based narrative games. So it's, I think
the studio has me hooked on whatever they decide to drop in the future, whether it's updates for this current project or we haven't gotten into it, but we'll have to poke the bear with the, future endeavors. I'm going to be all in. So,
And
one of the things that we've been trying to do in order to just push it out to the forefront more and get it just in front of more people is that we are adjusting the price as well. So right now we are running a sale that started back on Friday, I believe. It's going to be about 2 weeks, where instead of the initial $35, it's coming out for $22. Because the price has also been something that we have seen being talked about on Reddit from players, etc. And then once that sale ends, the game's permanent price is going to change to $25 just for the rest of its lifetime, barring other possible sales.
And I believe that sale goes until November 27th. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
So
that's an amazing deal.
100%.
Almost a little too good.
For the quality of the game.
Too good.
For the quality of the game, I agree.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Good sale price.
We appreciate it.
$24.99. Then a price drop to I don't know. That's a really good deal though. But and I get it. You gotta.
Well, if you can get it on sale,
but you are getting $35 plus worth of content here.
Easy.
So it's not like I don't know.
If you've been on the fence, I mean, for $21.99 or for $24.99 after the sale ends, I mean,
it's a steal.
It's beyond a steal. And I believe I got word that your Steam page is officially live. Is that correct as well?
Yes.
So users that are interested in the PC VR version can now go wishlist and stay up to date on the latest and greatest coming to that version, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Ooh, that's huge. I know we have a lot of PC VR users in our Discord as well. Of course, definitely the primary market is the Quest. Hell, that's what we're on, but
you got to hit them all. I mean,
that's
the way it goes.
For a game this beautiful.
We want to tell stories to everybody that has a VR headset, so obviously we need support to all platforms.
And with the idea of, an upcoming combat update, is the plan to continue to pump out content for a while with Genotype, or do you have future projects in mind? What's the roadmap for Bolverk games look like?
Yeah, so we are currently we have some ideas like a studio has, and we're working on these ideas, and we are in talks with people that think these ideas sound great. But at the same time, we that's vague, I know, but that's how far the talks are right now. But so we're looking into what the next project should be. We have some interesting things there, and then at the same time, we really want to improve on the game because we have great reviews, but we still want. There's a lot of things we still want to put into that game, and we want to support it. So yeah.
Internally, a talk is how we could add more replayability to Genotype. And one thing simply being, of course, achievements is something we're looking into, among other things.
Yeah, we have some other ideas, but we can't really, go into details yet, especially because we don't know when we'll be done with those. But we're planning to support the game for a while, for sure.
So what my brain heard was, yes, there will be more stuff down the road for this game, and there will definitely be other projects that we will endeavor into that will be equal or better. I will say though, if it's a really good game, even if it is like one of those situations where the replayability suffers, if haven't played Red Matter 2, 3 times. So,
and it's one of our favorite games.
And it's burned in my head as a great, expect you to die. When I've honed each one really well, I'm not going to have to go back. So it's like, there is nothing wrong with actually having a product that
it's a story-based game.
And
sometimes even because we usually,
it's like a good movie too, you could go back and watch it again. But
even when we review games, we usually have a section of the score dedicated to replayability. But when it's a story-based game, we kind of switch that over to difficulty or another category because it's a story-based game. It's the expectation isn't to go into it 10 times daily.
But if you're making it so that there is a reason
even
to go back,
better.
Yeah, I'm not upset about it. Come on.
I mean, it shows how demanding the VR market is as well. You all put out a great, unbelievable story-based game, and the first thing, like just a crowd of people coming and just going, "Hey, what's next? What is more coming? Is more coming?
Gimme."
But have you ever thought about re-implementing the roguelite mode, or is hey, look, we can't talk about it yet?
We've had some talks about a different way of playing the game. Let's put it that way. That would be replayable. Yep.
That was the first thing my brain went. I went, well, they had a previous version of it built,
and if that was before this works, and it worked,
yeah, it's not going to be a roguelite, but we have some ideas we want to try out. But since we haven't tried them out yet to a state where we are happy with them yet, we don't know if that's what we're going for. So that's actually why I'm not going into details, because I can't be sitting here and saying, yeah, we're going to make this and this mode and it's going to be all fun, and it turns out it's not fun. Then we don't want to release that mode. We want to work on it till it's fun and good for the gamers, right?
When it seems like the standard that everyone that's working in this studio has individually and as a team is very, very high. So I totally respect that.
Yeah. And this is one that I've been excited for a while. And sometimes that's good and bad. It's like you get super excited for something, you're so hyped, your anticipation is high, and
the letdown can be huge.
Yeah, but I can't say it enough. Just even that first, 10, 20, 30 minutes of gameplay, it's like, good luck putting it down. You're going to play until your headset's dead because the story is so good. It's fun. You do a great job adding more and more mechanics as the game develops. Hats off to you. I mean, there was even one point in the early into it where I was climbing and I was like, nothing told me to grab right here on the pipe or whatever's on the wall and go up. Nothing said that, like, there was nothing highlighting and saying that was the one, but the game's designed so well, just subconsciously my brain knew without anybody telling me that's where I go. So you can really see again, just good game design principles in every aspect of it.
High standard studio. I mean, and who's willing to take. Yeah, I mean, you mentioned like it was easy and it was kind of brushed over, like, oh, you can't go into a niche of a niche.
Yeah,
but I'd say the majority of teams will do that. Beat Saber worked, so let's drop 1,000 different rhythm games because that worked for them. It's the studios that are willing to say, I don't want to be a niche of a niche. I want to be my own. Those are the ones that are standing out right now.
I want to be a VR combat exploration game, so.
Yeah, I don't want to do what's been done and repeated. So, I mean, that's not an easy task. You're taking the most risk. It's easier to piggyback off of the wave of proven success than going, let's change this and make it our own. But
what we really needed to do for that is just you've been mentioning just how natural it felt to interact with certain things. That's all come back to the amount of testing we do. We encourage as much as possible for us to just test the game whenever you can, play the game. And we also had just an open beta test after our closed alpha that we did on site. We had an open beta where anyone could send in feedback and test out the game from their house and send in bugs. And it says a lot to the agility of the team that within that 5-week beta period, we released 3 or 4 or 5 different builds, because we were constantly responding to the bug reports that were coming in. And then we would send out another build, and the beta testers all volunteers, by the way, just would play it again and go, this is breaking here. This feels weird. I'm getting stuck here. And that's where we realize, there's a problem here. We need to make this interaction better. People are getting stuck understanding how to use the map or the mini rockets. Let's overhaul them so that they feel better to use, so they are more intuitive to use. And it's just very, very player-centric. It's about the experience that we want to give the players and trying to figure out, how to get the players to understand what is going on, to know what they have to do. And that just comes with testing.
Yeah, and a good example of that is the mini rockets, because throwing stuff in VR can be hard, and we want to save your television. So that's why we made them rockets.
Yes. So initially they were called grenades, and they were activated in much the same way. You slot them into the slot on the back of your left hand, and then you click the trigger in order to shoot them. However, if a gamer sees a thing that's called a grenade, their first instinct is not put it on the back of your left hand, it's yeet. So, we were getting bug reports that were, the grenades aren't working. I use it and it doesn't explode. And we realized, by I use it, they mean I throw it.
Yeah.
I mean, hey, look, that type of user testing and user feedback and responding to it, that's how you end up with such a good game.
And you all are still listening to the community and the people who are playing it and making changes to this very day just for people to enjoy the game better. I mean, it's a huge,
look, you're looking
hope you guys all had a good party after you released this, because come on.
The fact that they're looking to add replayability to a story-based game shows the drive.
That's unique in itself.
And, I referenced it was quick, but how long was it after the Quest 3 drop that you had your first update for Genotype? Optimizing for that. And
can you remember that, Mark?
I'm pretty sure it was about 2 weeks.
A week or 2 weeks, yeah.
Ridiculous.
Because we received our Quest 3 1 week after it launched. So this is not something that we just had in the wings waiting and for some reason didn't get released with the Quest 3. We did not have the Quest 3 until a week after launch. And then it took us about half a week to optimize the game enough to be able to re-release it for Quest 3. So, as I said, just testament to the agility of the team. And as the project manager, at times that is terrifying. Because I'm like, okay, we need art logs, we need code logs, we need to figure out, by this point, we need to figure out exactly what the shape of this is. And that point arrives and it's not there. And then somehow in the last 2 weeks, it all just comes together. And I've been involved in anywhere from 3 to 4 projects with Bolverk now. And it's always the same way. It's we don't have nothing. It's not playable. And then last 2 weeks, it's whoop, this is so good.
Again, testament to the team.
Yeah, hands off to you all.
That's the thing about VR, I'll say, is like there's no selfishness with people working together. It's like, no, teams want to work together, and the stronger you work as the team, the finished product's that much better. So,
I mean, regarding agility, we pushed out the Quest 3 patch here. Was it Monday? And the first thing I read on the Reddit is people talking about the resolution of the game and wanting to use Quest Game Optimizer to have it run at a higher resolution. And that actually came to a surprise from us at the tech team or the programmers, because we told Unity to run the game at the full native resolution. We didn't know that Quest went behind our backs and turned it down. So that's something that we're like, oh, wait, we want people on Quest 3 to have it in the full native resolution of the headset. We thought it already was. So that's something I was happy to get ready here for Friday for the sale for this weekend. So people on Quest 3 could play it at the native resolution. And of course, as we waited till we had the Quest 3 so we could test for ourselves and make sure that it does run at the full frame rate throughout the experience.
Yeah. So to explain that just a slightly bit better, it turns out that in standalone mode, when the Quest 3 and the Quest 2 are running, when you tell them to run full resolution, they actually bump it down in order to help it run better. So we had to go, actually, bring the resolution up even more so that when you're bumping it down, it actually runs at full native resolution. We only realized this because after our Quest 3 patch came out, some of the players on Reddit asked, why did you decide to go for volumetric lights, for this effect, for that effect, and not bump up the resolution? And our reaction was, is it not 100%? So we started studying why that was. And, well, thankfully, that second patch is now out. And now you can play on Quest 3 at native resolution, i.e., there would be no difference whether you're playing tethered or not.
You all are insane.
That's a great workaround though, and that's great advice for anybody else. But better make damn sure that game runs good.
Well, and again, we need to talk about like time frame. It's not like, you discovered this, then a week of research, and then a week of testing, and then that whole process was like what, 10 days? That's crazy.
5 days,
from Monday to Friday.
Yeah, including testing and working on other updates, things in the background. So yeah, that's
all of this while making sure that bumping it up to native resolution doesn't cause the FPS to suffer. So all of that includes playing through the entire game with the profiler open, making sure that you're not dipping below the FPSs that you need to be hitting.
I mean, I had an experience where a guy on our Discord wrote me and like, hey, you pushed a patch Friday and now the game runs really bad when I use the Quest Optimizer Pro or whatever it's called. And I told him, well, if you're using it on top of what it does now, you're running at 200%.
Yeah.
So you should just turn it off.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where people using that got to be really careful because these companies are getting better and better with getting their games to run. And you just gave the magic bullet of how to pull it off if you want your game to run 100%. Just raise it the difference of what you're going to get knocked down to when it's 100%. So yeah, I could imagine using that optimizer. How your headset wouldn't cook though.
Jeez, battery, the battery complaints already there.
5-minute game experience.
Yeah.
And for a game like Genotype, I don't want to put it down. I need to find out what happens next.
My best advice I could give people too is like, if you're going to play Genotype, play Genotype. Don't go jump into like 5 or 6 different games. Really enjoy it and don't go, take it full advantage of what's in front of you. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, no, the whole thing with I don't want to put it down, that was a surprise to us as well, because the way we designed the game, we were expecting about, half an hour play session, something that kind of fits in with VR, etc. We are getting 50-minute play sessions on average, which is wild to us. It's we made it so that people would be able to, play it for half an hour, put it down, play it over the course of X. And then we started getting the analytics after launch and realizing, people are playing this for an hour? Okay. Fantastic.
You can kill your battery playing this.
Easy.
No issues at all. And it doesn't, I'll say an hour in Genotype doesn't feel like an hour with the headset off. It goes a little quick. And I just think that's because of the immersion you're feeling, the experience you're getting, and the gameplay. So it's when it all comes together,
it's fun. There's diversity.
Kill my battery.
There's diversity in gameplay. You have exploration. You have climbing, all that stuff. You have some combat. But again, all that, as fun as it is to me personally, what kept me like killing my battery is the story is very well written. The voice acting is very good. You have that curiosity. There's a little bit of that mystery. What's going on? It's very well put together. So for anybody that likes those, story-based experiences, Genotype is top of the list this year. For me, it was like the best story-based games this year was Call of the Sea and Hubris. And then at the end of the year, out of nowhere, Genotype drops, and it's like, oh no, this might be the number one. This is such a good game. And we talked about some good stuff today, like the game going on sale.
That's huge.
It's worth it at full
and then
price.
going on permanently on sale if you really want to look at it.
So if you've been on the fence, to grab it for $21.99 is a steal. You all have a PSVR and a Steam version. PS or PC VR version dropping with the Steam page live now. You have combat updates, more ideas brewing.
PlayStation players are going to get to play it too. PlayStation VR, correct?
Well, that's what they said that they're porting to PlayStation VR too.
Yeah.
So
that's coming.
So it's huge, So there's a lot of news talk today, but in case you just want to stay up to date with the latest and greatest with Genotype, what's the easiest way to do that? I know you all have a newsletter. I'm not sure if you have Discord, social media. What would you say is the best way to stay up to date?
So the best way is definitely going to playgenotype.com, signing up for the newsletter. That's where our marketing team, Rasmus and Rasmus, just explain what's been going on with the development, etc. Looking at our Twitter or X now, which is Bolverk Games. That is where we put everything, any announcements, any sales, etc.
And our Discord.
And our Discord, which you can also get to through playgenotype.com. Our marketing team is really active on the Discord. Sometimes there are more memes than regular messages, but that's where you want it. And that's also where we have just the tightest connection to the players, and where we have a feedback channel where we figure out, this player is having trouble with this. Let's see if we can fold that into the next patch. Let's go test that to see if we can replicate this bug. Discord, Twitter /X, and newsletter.
And on Discord, I don't have my notifications turned off, so I'll notice if you're writing in there.
And I got to give a huge shout out. It's very rare I do this, but I mean, your marketing team was exceptional, even in like the planning of the interview. I'm glad you pronounced his name, because I would have done it wrong. I think I would have said Rasmus, but he's a great at what he does. I mean, I had over info about about you three, some news coming up for today. I mean, it
was really well done.
Yeah, your marketing team crushed. I'll say from my end, if every studio had that type of professionalism and dedicated, marketing put towards it, it would make, my life a lot easier too. You all crush it in that regard too. But I think that's just representative of the quality of everything you all do, whether that's audio.
There's any slackers in the studio.
No, the audio's good, the video's good, the internal marketing's good. It sounds like the communication, the structure, and like, hey, let's make sure we have things ironed out before we're announcing. Everything is you're checking boxes. I'm very excited for the future of both Genotype and Bolverk Games. I know you said that there's more work coming to this, but as you referenced to, I'm pretty sold on any title coming from them.
If it's got their name on it, I'll accept it.
Yeah, so I can't say enough. If you like story-based, VR games, Genotype is top of the list. But before we wrap this baby up, is there anything that you wanted to ask the team here that we didn't go over today?
Well, in typical fashion, I have a full notepad full of notes, so I'll say I got my money's worth. Most definitely. No, all the box. I mean, look, I liked it going into it, so it's not like I had any like underbelly questions to ask. And I'm sold. I'm sold on the experience. I'm sold on the playability. I'm sold on the studio and what they bring to the and the passion you have for staying constant. Like, hey, we didn't just release a game. Let's move on to some of these other ideas that we've whiteboarded. It's like, no, what's the community saying? What are they saying on Reddit? What are they saying about our game? Okay, we can fix this. It's just a very intense, aggressive studio. So I can't thank 3 human beings enough for taking time to throw me a whole notepad full of notes.
And on all of your end, is there anything that we didn't go over today about the making of the game or what's coming next? Anything else that we didn't go over today that you wanted to touch on?
No, I think we're good.
I think we are all set. It was
you 3 were
really appreciated. It was a really nice conversation.
Yeah, and thank you for all the kind words. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, you 3 were great. Unfortunately, you made my life a little bit harder with our end of the year game awards. Now I have a new candidate for story-based game of the year. I mean, really hats off for the Red Matter fans out there, for the story-based VR games. This game, you said it before, I agree. It's for the quality of it, for how fun it is, for how well made it is. Man, there should be raving about it, but I think it's only a matter of time. I think it's going to catch fire soon. And even now, the reception that it does have is nothing but great. So hats off to all of you. Thank you for taking the time to join us today. For the listeners,
thank you.
If you're on the fence, get it now for $21.99. It's on sale. It's so ridiculous.
Yeah.
Such a good price with more content coming. The game's not abandoned. There's more stuff in the works. The developers, they pump out updates.
Wicked
Stupid
healthy
fast.
studio. Yeah.
Stupid fast. So thank you, you three, for taking the time to talk with us today. Again, for the listeners, go pick it up. You know, you're
Go jump into their Discord.
It's like Red Matter. It's one of those games that I'm confident in recommending it to people. Walkabout. There's some games I'm like, well, what style game do you like? Like, no, you'll probably like Genotype. And if you enjoyed this episode, subscribe, rate us 5 stars, and we'll check you out later this week.
Take care.
Ciao, ciao.